It's Transformers96 here with another review from the Marvel Legends Infinite Series Thanos Build-A-Figure Wave. We have Spider-Woman as well as Hellcat. I'm doing the reviews together because they are the two kind of comic women in this series, both of which come with the exact same Build-A-Figure piece, which is the head and left arm of Thanos, which is quite strange. To be quite honest, I do not know why they didn't just give one of these characters the head and one the arm, but for some reason they gave two Build-A-Figure pieces to each of them. So not quite sure why they went with that decision, but they did. Overall, going over packages, package design is overall really nice. You get a picture of Hellcat on one side and a picture of Spider-Woman on the other. On the back, you get a nice picture of the two of them together, as well as the others in the assortment. I was able to purchase them all on Hasbro.com. Got a bit of a discount too, so I'm very happy with the price that I did end up paying for this series. And then we do have the Thanos Build-A-Figure. I did sell one of their Build-A-Figure pieces because obviously I didn't need two, so was able to sell that. I sold for $10 and was very happy about that. It did, and also brought down the price of this wave for me too. So very happy that I was able to sell the Build-A-Figure piece. Going over the actual figures, now originally before I intended to buy an entire case from Hasbro, my original thought was just to buy one of these women. If I only found one of them, I would just buy whichever one I found first. If I happened to see them both at the same time in the store, I would have gone with Spider-Woman. But because I did get the entire case, I did have an opportunity to sell Hellcat, and I decided to keep her even before I opened her because she looked a little interesting, so I thought, she'd be worth keeping. And I still was able to get $10 for her Build-A-Figure piece, so turned out to only pay about $10 for her overall. So now in this review, I'm going to be talking a lot about which one should you get if you just want the Build-A-Figure piece, because obviously you don't need both to get the Build-A-Figure piece. So that's mainly what I'm going to be focusing on in this review. Going over the actual sculpts of these women. Well, first of all, character-wise, one's from Spider-Man, and Spider-Woman is a really well-known character. I think I've seen her many times in forms of media, and definitely is a very recognizable character. Hellcat, on the other hand, I do not know who she is. Possibly I've seen her before, but she really doesn't ring a bell for me, and having the figure doesn't remind me at all. So I'd like to know a little bit more about her history, because I really don't know anything about her. Going over the actual sculpts, surprisingly, they are completely different, for the most part at least. I was really expecting these to share just basically the same body sculpts with a different head, different accessories, and different hands, and that's really all I thought was going to be different. Surprisingly enough, though, they are completely different figures for the most part, at least. Going over the actual body sculpt of Hellcat, as you can see, is quite nice there. She does look quite cool. I think that they share the same legs. They might even share the same lower body. Now the chests and arms and head are completely different. So from the chest up, they are completely different figures though, and it's quite surprising. As you can see here. Their breasts are actually sculpted differently. Typically I see that they use the same chests for all the women, but they did sculpt them actually differently, noticeably differently. So that's kind of interesting and kind of neat, so that they don't just look like the same figures with different head sculpts. I feel like a lot of the women figures, they start to look like the same sculpts with different heads, but luckily that is not the case here. They did sculpt them quite differently, which I'm very happy about. And as you can see, the arms do have different articulation, as well as just the biceps on Spider-Woman are a little bit larger than they are on Hellcat. And the heads are completely different. Going over Hellcat's hair, as you can see, she has a really nice designed hair sculpt. I like it a lot. I like the way it flows a lot. There's also a bit of space in her hair there and there, where her arms, if she has them pointed back, can kind of fit through, so her hair doesn't hinder her posability very much, which I do like a lot. And I definitely like the way that it's sculpted. My only problem with it is it's a bright orange, and it's just pure orange. Really wish that they highlighted the hair. They took either a really dark orange or like a black and washed it through it. I think it would have given it a more realistic and comic book type of look instead of just complete orange. I definitely do not like that. Luckily they did shade in her body in other places. As you can see, that you do have a very light orange shaded in at the upper knees, the torso here, her collarbones and then her side of her body all has that kind of shading in it, which is really nice. if they left it just plain yellow, it really wouldn't have looked good. So I am very happy that they did shade a bit more into it. Her blue is really nice. It's a very dark blue, but it's also metallic, so it looks just great. Really, it shines very well in certain light, which I like a lot. The face sculpt itself is quite nice. She's got a bit of a smirk, which I do like. Her pupils are white, so you can't see them. And overall, it's a really kind of nice design. She looks kind of like a Batman character. I think that she definitely resembles Catwoman, at least in her mask, the way that her ears are formed and everything. Her hands, she has one hand that's meant for holding her weapon, and then one hand that's open, just kind of like this, kind of like a cat gonna scratch you type of pose, which I think is kind of interesting. Her accessory, when I first saw it, I got really worried because it looked like it was just a repaint of the accessory that came with the Daredevil from the series before it. And his accessories were terrible. They were so, they were like worse than rubber. They were so pliable. They felt like erasers. So I was very afraid of that being the same case for her. Luckily, they are a much harder plastic than his, so I definitely like that a lot. And they do connect. I mean, you can break these apart, and she can't hold it in this hand, but I guess she's meant to kind of hold it in two hands if she wanted to. So I think that that's pretty nice. And they do fit in really nicely together. They're not going to fall out or anything. The peg is really quite big. The only thing is, they're slightly bent, so they're not completely straight, which is a shame. But it's some hot water and a freezer will fix that, you know, if you have the time to do that. So overall, that would be nice. One thing I really don't like about her paint is that the blue on her leg there is really washing into the yellow on her. Really don't like that. So it very much looks like a yellow with blue really washed into it. It looks terrible, I must say. And I doubt that that's just mine because it's so severe that I'd be very surprised if it is just mine. She has this little tassel thing that goes around her waist. Seems to be the same one that came with... is it Miss Marvel? Yeah, it's Miss Marvel. So I believe that that's just the same accessory, just obviously painted blue this time. Going over the sculpt on Spider-Woman, she's really nice. Now, what I like about her paint is that there isn't that really bad blue kind of washed into her to her color, because her color is a much darker color. So even if the black was washing into this, you really wouldn't notice it too much, and it would look more like detailing than anything else. It's the yellow that really kind of can look bad. And in her stomach there's like her belly button, as you can see, there is some yellow, kind of like an indentation. I don't know like how that happened. Maybe they just they packaged her too soon and it gave her yellow paint a little bit of a swirl right where her belly button is. So that is a little bit of a shame, but it's definitely something that's not super noticeable or bad or anything. So I don't mind that at all. The overall sculpt is really quite nice, as you can see there. The head sculpt I like a lot. I like a lot better on her. I like the head sculpt on Spider-Woman much more than I do on Hellcat, I must say. I think that it has more of a comic book look to it. It looks really accurate from what I remember. And her hair is quite nice, although it's nothing too new from what we've already seen. Obviously, Hellcat's hair is very different from anything that we've seen before. And then her hands are really nice. I love the design in her hands. Very much like Scarlet Witch type of hands. But I do like them a lot. And the hinge on her wrist works really well, so you can really do a lot with these neat hands. She obviously comes with the kind of spider webbing. As you can see, it's sculpted really nicely. It's sculpted just about the same as it is on the Spider-Man 1990 or Spider-Man 2099 from the last series. It's got that same like clear look to it. It's got a little bit of blue washed into it. She also does come with an extra pair of folded up ones. So if you have her posed with her arms down, you can have these in it so that you can still see the webbing there, but it's not super big or gets in the way or anything. So I really do like that. I like to display her more like this though, so you can really see the webbing because it's definitely unique and different, which I think is pretty cool. Articulation on these women here is a bit different, actually. You've got ball jointed heads, both of them hindered by their hair, but you can still get a bit of movement with them. You have ball hinged shoulders, and then on excuse me, on Spider-Woman she has a bicep swivel, while on Hellcat she doesn't, and then on both of them they have hinged swivel elbows. Now their wrist, Spider-Woman's wrist hinges down and up, while Hellcat there, her wrists go in and out. Very different wrist joints. I think that this is the first Marvel Legends modern figure for a woman that actually has that type of hinge joints on Hellcat there. So I really do like her hinge joints on her wrist. They're very different from what we usually see, so I'm very happy about that. They have ball jointed upper torsos, which work really well, ball jointed thighs with thigh swivel, double hinge knees, and hinge pivoting ankles. Overall, articulation is pretty great on both of them, and they both pretty much maintain the same level of articulation. Because their elbows swivel, the bicep swivel that Spider-Woman has is really unnecessary, and then the hinge on the wrists are just as good on both of them. They're just different hinges, so it's really up to your personal preference which one you like more. Overall, I find them both very cool. Obviously, if you only want to pick up one because you just want to build a figure piece for Thanos, then I would first of all recommend going with whichever character you like the best. If you like Spider-Woman, if you like Hellcat, then get whichever one you like better. But if you really don't have any preference as far as character-wise, personally, I think the look-wise, I like Spider-Woman better. I think that she's got a cleaner look to her. I think it's the red paint on her is really quite nice, while the yellow on Hellcat in some areas looks a little cheap because you do have that blue that kind of meshes in with it, which is unfortunate, but it just kind of comes with the territory of a yellow paint job. But if you want something more unique, I would recommend going with Hellcat. She comes with a neat accessory, as well as her hair is very different from what we've seen, although not super well painted in my opinion. Her hair is very different though, which is really cool. And then the hinge on her wrist is obviously very different and unique as well. So those are the aspects that I would say look at. If you're looking for just a better looking figure, I go Spider-Woman. If you're looking for a more unique figure, I go with Hellcat. And if you have a preference with character at all, obviously I'd say first of all, go with whichever character you like. But if you don't have a preference, those are the two other aspects that I would recommend making your decision on. Overall, both are great figures, though, I must say, and definitely really nice. I'm very happy with both. Like, if you're okay buying both, I would totally do that, because they definitely have completely different looks, and they're not just the same figure with a different head sculpt. They're very different figures, which is pretty neat and unexpected, I must say. Alright, there you go. That's my review of the Marvel Legends Thanos Wave, Spider-Woman, and Hellcat. Thanks so much for watching.